Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ Envy, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building.
Yes, indeed.
Brian Grazer. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Brian got a lot of accolades. New York Times bestselling author.
Correct.
Oscar-winning producer.
Okay.
Golden Globes, Emmy,
Nice.
Grammy Awards.
Nice.
His films, along with Ron Howard, Imagine Entertainment, I think y'all have grossed like $13 billion in movies.
Woo.
Or
Sure.
something like that.
Yeah.
Give or take $1 billion, right?
That's like
yeah,
work.
give or take.
Yeah. And he's got a new book out now called Face to Face, The Art of Human Connection.
All that, and you want to come on this show?
Exactly. And why write books? Why?
You really want an answer? To
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't really intend on writing a book, but I did a previous book. It was called A Curious Mind, and that was because for 40 years I've decided since college that I would try to disrupt my comfort zone every week by trying to understand another business other than my business. And so I've met thousands of people, Nobel laureates, Michael Jackson, Edward Teller, the father of the hydrogen bomb, endless amounts of people. And they would share their insights. And I would get into these one-on-one conversations, which I put high value on, to the point I thought, I'd rather have one of these conversations with somebody that was meaningful than have another hit movie. And then somebody said, don't ever say that out loud. But then I had this epiphany, and I realized that none of the people that I'd met over the 40 years would have really connected with me and shared their heart and me theirs if we didn't actually look at each other.
Yeah.
That was this sort of central bridge. It was like to human connection. It was kind of the Wi-Fi of human connection.
Yeah.
And
Hi-fi.
Hi-fi and
Hi-fi.
Yes.
Yes.
That's why I'm on your show. Yes. So that's what it is. So I basically thought I wanted to share this with other people and share the technique so that other people can do it. Truthfully, because I was like a F student in elementary school for quite a while because I was dyslexic, and if I can do it, anyone can do this.
You were dyslexic.
Honestly.
How did you overcome your
Dyslexia?
I started to say dyslexicsness, which sounded dyslexic. How did you overcome that?
I didn't, up until the fifth grade. Then I remember pretty vividly, I could read one word. And then I was able to spell, not phonetically, just something happened and I still have, and it just sort of gradually happened.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost like kids. I met this kid in Buenos Aires who was Venezuelan, who spoke perfect English. He was 22 years old, and he learned it through video games.
Wow.
So I probably learned to read and spell through human connection by talking to people. Because I had I had this one person, my grandmother, who was my sort of mentor, savior in life. And she said, your curiosity is going to take you all the way. And she would always go, you're going to go all the way, think big, be big. And I'd say, aren't you looking at these report cards? These are all Fs. But she didn't seem to care. So I did really use this sort of, engine of curiosity to learn a lot. And that probably fused together with my sort of beginning to learn to spell.
How did you get into television? What was your love for television? What made you jump into that?
Well, but maybe that was very, very long time ago. That was my first thing when I was 25 years old.
Right.
Okay. So I worked for this really brutal boss. It's okay to say his name is Edgar Sherrick, and because his daughter just wrote a book about him as being bipolar. Scott Rudin, who's another well-known producer, he and I worked for this one guy that yelled at you every day.
Was that a good thing or bad thing?
Well, it was a bad thing, and it was a bad thing, but the only good thing was he said, if you can create an idea and sell it, you can produce it. So you can go from being like a nobody, which I was, to being a producer.
Everybody's somebody.
I don't know if I felt like somebody. And he was always yelling, and he'd say, you're fired. And then I'd get fired for a couple of weeks. And then his partner would say, look, if you play golf with me, because ironically, I was on the golf team in high school. And so he'd say, if you play golf with me at 5:30 a.m., I'll get you back with Edgar. And he would.
Random.
So so then I ended up getting some movies for TV made when I was 25. One was called Zuma Beach. It was like the day in the life of Zuma Beach. It was mostly just good-looking people.
Like the first
good-looking
Baywatch,
kids.
kind of.
It was kind of like that. It was like American Graffiti at the beach.
Okay.
And it got really high ratings because it was conceptual and it was sexy. And then I produced I had an idea to make a 20-hour miniseries on the 10 Commandments, where I would use each commandment. Sorry?
I remember that.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't watch it, but I remember it.
Yeah, but you remember it existed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but whereas each commandment was an underlying theme and a contemporary moral dilemma. And so you'd see both sides of why shall, thou shalt not kill, or you'd see both sides of it.
Gotcha.
And so that got me kind of hot in the movie, in the business. Then I got offered a lot of jobs. Then I asked the Yeller guy to give me a raise, and the Yeller yelled at me and said no raise. And then I just took a big job at Paramount. And
you make that sound so easy. Like,
it wasn't easy.
Definitely doesn't sound easy.
I know it does.
He's giving us the abridged version of.
It was abridged version.
Yeah.
Basically, what happened is I was a writer. So those movies for TV that I was referencing, those were my creations, and because I had no money, and somebody said, since you have no money, you got to have something. So I'd write my ideas, and as rudimentary as they were conceptual, and that was valuable. And then I wrote the Mermaid. I wrote the movie called Splash about a man.
Classic!
Yes, that's a classic.
Classic!
Daryl Hannah.
Tom Hanks, one of the greatest actor of all time, if you ask me.
Wow, thank you.
I think so.
Good, thanks.
To me, Tom Hanks was.
I love him.
I love Flash.
Yeah.
I watch Flash to this day.
Wow.
To this day.
Charlamagne really came alive.
No, I love Flash.
He's really excited
Flash
about
is
Flash.
great, man.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah,
Thanks.
he likes that splash.
I would love to see a sequel to Splash. Like, I want to see him underwater living with her. Because that's what happened at the end, right? He became a merman.
He became her. Yeah, the merman.
A
yeah.
merman. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, a lot of people. I was turned down hundreds of times on this Mermaid movie.
I can see why.
Yeah, and they go.
Yeah, I can see why. Too. When you
It
see
just
you love
seems
it, but
stupid.
The
Yeah.
concept is like, yeah.
But the movie is great.
But
But the
movie's
movie's
dope.
great. Well, because I kind of knew what the internal heartbeat of what the movie was. It was a love story.
Love story.
It was about a guy that has a lot of things. He owns a produce store. He's not like a loser. He's got good shit, but he can't have love. And so I thought that disability would be really interesting.
Was
of course,
that your personal life? Or
it was
like,
my personal
Was
life.
it really?
It was.
You fell in love
It's
with
a
a mermaid?
great story because
Yeah, it was.
it's basically
It was my personal
It's
life.
basically like,
It
it's
was.
love out there for everybody, even if it's deep, deep, deep under the water.
Yeah.
I figured that it was your love life, or you was high one day. It was like, this would be a great.
There's a
idea.
movie like that just came out that won all
That
these
shit,
Oscars.
what was
Yeah,
that
oh,
shit
yeah.
called?
Yeah, with
The
Guillermo del
Shape of
Toro.
Water.
I
Shape of
hated
Water.
that. It
Yes.
was garbage.
I
It
enjoyed
wasn't
that
good.
movie.
No, it wasn't. It was not good.
There was no splash.
Exactly.
There was no splash.
It wasn't a splash. And I really feel like somebody saw Splash and that was
It's
the
the same
inspiration for that movie.
Thank you.
A little more violent.
Thanks. Thank you. But I'm glad that you like Mermaid, like Splash. So basically, it was my story. You're right. And then I thought, how can I make her even more unattainable, and at the same time give a woman more power and mystique? Make her a mermaid. And that put her into it. That put the movie into another genre, elevated her to another genre. So it was like a fantasy along with a romantic comedy.
So when your boss at the time, right, or whoever
Yeah,
had to
that
approve
guy.
that, when you went to say,
Nobody
is my,
approved that
This
one.
is my concept. What did they say back to you?
Oh, on the Splash movie.
Yes.
Well, I had no boss at the time. Well, that time I was at Paramount. I pitched it to those bosses multiple times. They said, well, they wouldn't even let me back in the office. They mostly go, that's a stupid idea. That's just, they don't go, a mermaid, there's no such thing as a mermaid. And I'd go, I understand that. And then once I made one movie and gave me some credibility called Night Shift, it was still hard to make the Mermaid movie. And I had one company, Warner Brothers, that said they'd do it if I didn't let Tom Hanks go underwater and be with the woman. I go, but that's the whole point of the movie. I'd rather, again, be like on the street with nothing than do it and have defeat the whole purpose of the movie.
Isn't the worst part about pitching ideas when you got to sit down and talk to a bunch of non-creatives?
Yes, it's really, really hard. It's like you're hitting a wall all the time.
Yeah.
And they're thinking about finances and how much they can make.
They always talk, they try to bring a economic model to everything. And we all know that doesn't work in life because art forms don't work that way. So, but they always do that. So what I do on pitches now, what I've learned after Splash is that when people are dinging you out for the story, they go, that story's stupid. then I go right to the theme. And if people, and you pick themes, like in the case of Splash, it's a love story. So I go, do you mean you don't root for love or parenthood or empire? I'd go, yeah, I understand these are the characters, but you have to root for family. If you don't root for family, and then people don't want to look at themselves in the mirror like that, so they go, yeah, of course I root for family. And then they often will go, yes.
Was Empire a tough sell back then only because there wasn't a lot of black representation on TV at the time?
Yeah, it was a very, very, very tough sell for network television. It was like one meeting at a network. It was, and even I've had a lot of success prior to that. I didn't cry, but I thought I'd cry. They were so disgraceful about it, like shaming and stuff like that.
Really? What were they shaming? Hip hop?
They were shaming
blackness. What was it?
I don't know. Just like I don't even shouldn't say, but it was just like this is a terrible idea. 90%, 95% black movie, black TV series on network television. Don't you watch television? Don't you understand?
There's no Negroes on TV, Brian. This is the 90s.
Fortunately, there are now.
Yeah, now it is.
But yeah.
Because of Empire.
But it was hard because of Empire. Yeah, it's true. The thing that, yes, I think we all like that it opened the aperture for that possibility.
Absolutely.
So, but I think if you find, you go, please. If you find a theme that is irrefutable,
Right.
then it sort of helps.
Like you did 8 Mile, and you tell a great story about sitting down with Eminem.
Yeah.
That felt awkward because I was picturing it as I was reading what that scenario was like for you to even
Why was it awkward?
have that meeting.
Because I again, like we're having fun talking and stuff, and I feel like I try really hard to have human connection. That's kind of and I tried all of these techniques to communicate with him and have him look at me, but he just kept looking straight out the window while I was over here. And Jimmy Iovine was over there looking at me like, like that. And I literally tried it all. And then after about 20 minutes, which felt like 2 hours at least, he just goes, I'm out. And I just was unable to connect in a way that made him feel safe or interested or trusting. And then I said, you can't go, like that. And so he put his hand on the door to leave, and I just, in desperation, just
Tackled him?
No, I couldn't. I didn't tackle him because no, I didn't tackle him. But in desperation, I just said, you can animate, can't you? And
What?
I said, you can animate.
You can animate?
Which I was like, where did that come from?
What?
Well, I guess-
Can you draw? Can you do cartoons? What does that mean?
Like physically. Well, here's the thing. What made me really want to meet him was I saw he was at the VMAs, and he was on screen for a short minute on screen in his seat, and he had this really icy urban glare going on that felt really.
What is an urban glare, Brian?
What
It's
is
just
an
like
icy
I
urban-
can't do it. It's just
Show
scary.
me. I need to see what an urban glare. Why is that an urban glare?
Well, because I knew
That
a
could be
little
to look
bit.
up a domestic terrorist.
By the way, wow, you're the only one that's busted me, and it's a legit bust on that, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
why urban?
Just say glare.
I'm gonna give glare.
Yeah,
from
get rid of the
now on.
urban. Yeah, get rid of the urban.
Yeah,
Icy glare.
I'm having to learn stuff on the show.
That's fine.
Jeez, that's embarrassing, but it's true. Okay,
Yeah, the icy glare.
I had a glare.
Okay.
On TV.
Gotcha.
And then somebody made him laugh, and he really did animate. He had this, what you look for in actors.
Was it
is
an urban laugh? Like a one of those? Or like,
No.
That just made me uncomfortable. Are you all right? Did he assault you? Are you okay?
Is this show going okay for me? Oh no, I was told
Did I
to
do
watch
okay?
out. Oh man, that was good. That was very
Okay.
funny. That was
Urban
very
laugh. Go.
Okay.
Anyway, no, just a laugh. And that was it. He laughed. He laughed. He smiled. Honestly, he animated. His face became fluid, and like Tom Hanks, your favorite actor.
He's the best.
There's a thing that you look for in actors, and so he had that quality. That's why I wanted to meet him. So I guess it was desperate. It was 20 minutes in. He was going to leave. I just said that word. It was irrelevant.
And he stopped, though.
And then he stopped. He came back, sat down. I better just charge into this thing.
Yeah.
Sat down, and he told his story. I said, "What's your story?" And and he launched into his story, and that really became what became 8 Mile. It became the architecture for the movie 8 Mile. And this guy won an Oscar. First hip hop artist to ever win an Oscar.
Well, it was for music.
I know, but still, I'm
That was a great movie, too, by the way.
8 Mile is good. It's actually better now.
good.
I didn't really care for it in theaters.
It's turning good now.
No. I didn't really care for it in theaters, but when I go back and watch it on reruns, it was actually a very
then you
good
get
movie.
appreciate it.
I actually wrote a whole chapter in my first book based off Eminem. I call it Live Your Truth, and it's the Eminem and 8 Mile theory. And it's live your truth so nobody will use your truth against you. So at the end, when he's going
That's
against...
the whole point of the movie.
Yes.
The whole point of the movie is what you just said. I was going to touch you.
Yes. That's an urban touch.
But yeah. Yeah, it's not like it wasn't winning the rap thing and doing all the battles. It was self-actualizing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the thing that really, because kids get traumatized, and he was paralyzed through these different things that were traumatic to him, and he was able to say, yeah, my mom's, you have to say it. My mom's a whore. Yeah, you did fuck my girl.
Yeah.
And I'm a poor kid. All that. He was able to shed himself of all the things that caused him shame, and all those traumas created lots of disabilities in his life, and his disability to actually look at an audience until he finally overcame that.
But it created disability in his foe, too, because his foe didn't have anything to use against him.
Yeah, I have to read your chapter. That sounds like the thesis of that.
Now, have you ever had a face-to-face connection with somebody and decided that person was not a good person just from your sit-down?
Wow, that's a really good question. Yes, I have. Because at this point, I do use eye contact to make snap decisions, in terms of casting.
Make mistakes like that.
What?
You can make mistakes like that.
You can, but if you're dealing with high volume, you have to feel people's energy, and sometimes I feel like somebody's energy is not going to be a good outcome for Brian. And
I agree with that with the energy part, but have you read Malcolm Gladwell's Talking to Strangers?
Yes.
He's
a really good friend of mine. He introduced me to Gucci. He goes, I'm gonna. He's a great friend. 15 years. He goes.
We made that connection, by the way.
What?
We made the connection between Malcolm and Gucci, because Gucci spoke about how he read Malcolm's books in jail. And then,
yes, that's true.
I think Malcolm tweeted him or something, and then they ended up having a sit down.
Yeah, exactly. But you asked me a question, I should stay on point.
Oh, no, in Talking to Strangers, Malcolm talks about how we make mistakes because
we make mistakes,
we think, like you said, Eminem wasn't looking at you eye to eye.
Yeah.
But that don't mean that he's not a trustworthy person or somebody that
well,
would
and you say that too. People could be nervous.
I would not have ever made the judge. Yes, 100% correct.
Okay.
I would never say, oh, he wasn't trustworthy. I'd just say he wasn't interested.
Gotcha.
Right? That's the only thing I could guess. But going to your question, there are people that I've met that I felt like just might not be a good person.
Right, your intuition and energy was like, this is not.
Yeah, that they're not embracing humanity at all. Certain people are like technocrats, so they want to move technology as fast as they can. They want to move sometimes AI as fast as they can to the expense of the human species. And I know that's a broad statement, and there are some caveats, of course, that could inform that. But I care about people that care about people.
Right, because you're also in a business where there are some really disgusting people.
Yes. There's one, that is sentenced that I didn't know that had this problem, but I just never wanted to work with that person because I just...
Harvey Weinstein?
Could be Harvey Weinstein.
You said he's sentenced. Charged or sentenced?
I don't know what he's charged or sentenced, quite frankly.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you was right about it.
But I should... Well, the energy. I just never wanted to be in alignment with
Why are you
someone.
protecting him? Say his name.
I guess it's Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, don't protect him, Brian.
I just don't want to be some...
If you feel
You
like
felt the
that,
energy.
you feel
No,
like
that's
that.
good.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's enough people that have...
I mean, I would say this, that when I went up to win I stood up to receive an Oscar for Apollo 13 and didn't get it, and Harvey Weinstein, which is a bummer, at the end of the night he goes, if you're with me, you win an Oscar. Now, I was able to win an Oscar 2 years later on A Beautiful Mind, but I just...
Great movie.
Yes.
Thank you.
Russell Crowe, baby.
Yeah. Russell Crowe. He's good.
He's good.
That was
really
it.
good.
Great movie.
Denzel's really good.
That was a great movie. Denzel and Russell Crowe, two of the best.
Yeah. So sometimes you do meet people. Often I meet people. people that energy is out of alignment with mine.
Is it ever a situation where sometimes it could be a project that you want to get done, they'll give you the freedom to do it, but you just don't like them personally? Or is business not personal?
Business isn't personal. Movies aren't, because they're a finite period of time. But I guess I look at, I make this, again, sort of judgment. Do I feel, can I imagine that I'm going to have a good beginning with this person? And more importantly, do I imagine that I'll have a good end? Like, will it end well? Because I really care about good endings with people. And they have all, for the most part, ended really well. So I try to project, will this thing end well? Because the middle, you're going to wrestle stuff out, you're going to disagree. It's a creative process, and whether it's a movie or a TV show. So I sort of try to forecast, will this end well?
Right.
And yeah.
What about actors? Aren't they always acting, so it's hard to gauge sometimes?
Yeah,
they know how to act.
Okay, with actors, I don't think of it so much. I just go by the talent. Is that person authentic? Is that person, they connected to the source? And is that source, are they able to access that source for authenticity and originality in their voice? I mean, their voice.
When you say
And if
authentic,
I
you mean
feel
authentic to the role?
No, are they authentic human beings so that they can pivot?
Do you have to be that way as an actor though? Because you're not pretending. You're pretending to be somebody else anyway.
Yeah, but I have to believe that I have to believe in these intangibles. Like, okay, so you're talking about these three actors you like a lot. You like
Tom Hanks,
Denzel, and Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
You will notice, with the exception of Tom Hanks, because he does comedy, but when Tom Hanks does drama and the other two guys do drama, they have this one thing in common. They don't say a lot of words because they're thinking so much. And when the audience is wondering what that person is thinking, and that's magnified through the behavior and physicality of charisma, that you're going, wow, what is that person thinking? Same thing with Steve McQueen in the day. You're going, that dude is so badass. Like, what's going on? What's he gonna do? Or Brando, or Pacino, who's so amazing. But we could go through those guys. But Russell Crowe and Denzel are very economic in the words that they say on screen. But you study their faces, you study their physiognomy, you study their body movement, and it telegraphs a lot. The king of all of that, of course, is De Niro. If you look at his dailies, you don't really see much. I made a movie with Bobby, and you don't see much, but it adds up. And of course, the marriage between De Niro and Scorsese is perfect because Marty Scorsese really knows the power of the lens, of a lens as a magnifier. He lives inside that lens, and he knows how to get the most impact out of Robert De Niro. And so I think that's sort of that's my sort of take on acting and authenticity and everything else. But you know that they're coming from a real place. You talk to Denzel, he will challenge you until he has the truth. And if he doesn't get the truth quickly, goodbye. No, and same thing with Russell Crowe, by the way.
That's so interesting you say that, because when you look at like Denzel, you're constantly thinking, especially like a movie like Training Day, you're thinking, what is Alonzo thinking? Because even to this day, I'm wondering, was Alonzo a bad guy? Or was he just in a bad situation?
That's a really good point.
You know?
That's brilliant, actually. Because, right. I think I wondered it, but never really thought it through so I could label it that way, honestly. Because I don't know. That's a really good point. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know.
Well, remember I told you about Harvey Weinstein. What do you think? Do you think he was a good guy?
I didn't know him.
Guy in a,
I didn't know anything about Harvey.
Well, he was in a bad situation. Well, forget how Harvey part. But on Training Day, probably a guy in a bad situation.
Because he owed the Russians
money. A tough guy in a really bad situation.
But why did he owe the money?
Because he had a hot temper and he killed somebody in a fight. Yeah. I don't know.
So he's a bad guy.
Yeah. I agree with you, especially when it comes to the human connection. But based off your logic, we're fucked. Because there's no human connection anymore because of social media.
Well, that's the problem. And that's sort of another reason I wanted to write this book. Because I really think, look, social media is cool. Some of it, is cool. And then smartphones are the most, one of the greatest technological inventions of our century, for sure. But I think you should get smart on your smartphone. But when you think when you're going to see somebody, Like in the case of me seeing you, I'm not going to walk in with my cell phone. You're not going to respect that. You're going to, it's the story starts out there outside the glass.
Yes.
And then when I come in, the story further continues. But you want to feel that somebody is connecting, like honestly doing the best they can to
Imagine we're doing an interview and we're on our cell phones while we're interviewing.
People do this though.
No. Who did that to you, Brian?
Well, no one's done it to me.
Oh.
We've heard situations. We've heard real life situations of artists going to get a record deal and going into the room to meet with an executive and listen to the music, and the executive is on their phone doing other stuff. And
that happens all the time.
Yes, and an artist would be like,
casting happens.
I'm not signing here because the person's not even paying attention to my, and they'll be like, I was listening. You said it in your book. I was listening. I heard everything you said.
Yeah.
But you're not even making eye contact or giving me that respect to put your phone down.
Correct. Yeah. Because actually, Ron Howard said very early on, and I thought I was being really attentive. But on our movie Splash, I was talking.
Classic.
It all comes back to Splash.
Yeah, it comes back to Splash. On that movie, because I had written a couple of drafts myself, I felt like I knew it really well. And so when the writers that we brought on who really made it good, Lowell Gantz and Bob Lou Mandel, then Ron and I, or the four of us are together, I would be multitasking, doing other things, and feeling like I'm making valuable contributions. And Ron said, it's not about making valuable contributions. Yeah, of course you can do that, but when you don't look at them, you hurt their feelings. And that's exactly how Ron would communicate, of course. And I thought, that's really true.
He's a very intriguing guy.
He is. You should get him on the show.
I would love to have Ron on.
I'll tell him because
That's Opie.
It's Opie, but he has a lot of film
Richie Cunningham.
Exactly, Richie Cunningham. That's how I met him. He was Richie Cunningham.
You met him way back then?
I
Happy
met
Days?
him on Happy Days.
What?
Yeah. So what happened is I had, at that point in my life, it was early on, and so I was still doing conversations with people in the media business. And I was about 26 years old, and I was on the Paramount lot. And I had an office. It was called the Director's Building. I was on the third floor, and I could open the window and kind of yell out at people, like to meet them and stuff. I see Richie Cunningham. I go, oh my God, this guy's he's an American icon, Richie Cunningham. So I yell out. I go, Ron Howard, like that. He's like zips around a building. He was ducking me because it was frightening, you know. Like
you had that urban glare hanging out the window.
All right, something happened. Oh my God! I guess that was it. Jeez, I know not to do that. I really know that. So okay, but I like you doing it. It's fun. All right, so I yell out the window, ducks away. I thought, oh wait, I can't give up on this. So I call his office direct. I say to his assistant Louisa, who's still with him actually, believe it or not. I was the guy that yelled out the window. I'm a young producer on the lot. I know Ron has produced a couple movies for TV, but he's Richie on Happy Days. I get it. I really want to meet him. And I was kind of, charming about it and everything. And then Ron said, okay. And I said, let's do like a Hollywood lunch, have lunch. And he admitted to me only this trip, like literally a couple days ago, that was his first Hollywood lunch he'd ever had in his whole life.
Really?
He's always on soundstage, just working. And he's a shy guy. He's not an outside guy. It'd be great on him on the show. I'd love it. It'd be great.
What did you see in him to know that y'all could build this $1 billion company?
Okay. Honestly, when I met him, I saw him, he had this glow, this energy of goodness about him. It just exuded this energy of goodness. And I thought, that's fantastic. I want to bet on that, And I also kind of needed that at that time in my life because I was, a kid that was, still I was, being successful, but I did need some, role model of goodness like that. I mean, I think everybody does. It helps you when you have a really good person around you, you tend to make better decisions,
right?
Yeah,
gooder decisions towards people, and so there that connects to a guy that would say to you, "You're hurting their feelings," and those are things that I need. I think we all need to know how people feel, because we want people to feel good,
right?
And you don't have to spend 3 hours with people. You can do this all in 30 seconds. Make somebody feel good,
right?
Just by looking at them and going, "Hey," or any kind of a real acknowledgement that's not phony is going to be powerful to somebody's life.
So you're an aura person. You read auras. Have you ever read the Celestine Prophecy?
No,
I
haven't.
So you can see auras around people.
I can see auras around.
Yeah.
I mean, probably not as vivid as described in a book that's actually about that subject, but I do feel like that's how I operate in life. I feel their energy, which would constitute being an aura. Yeah.
Have you ever been wrong?
I've never been wrong, but sometimes because I fall in love or passionate about the person, or I just lose track of that definition. Where I go, I don't feel like this guy's right, but I'm going to make a case for why I have to do this. And that's a mistake. In fact, I recently had yesterday where I thought, this is a message. I should not do this thing.
Really?
Yeah.
What was it, a movie? Or?
It was a person.
And you were supposed to do something with him?
Well, it's a person that has like sort of two strikes of doing
something wrong.
Like making sloppy choices and kind of lying.
Oh, yeah.
And I say kind of lying.
It was kind of lying.
Kind of lying.
We all kind of like. I might have kind of lied about my penis size in life. You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean kind of?
When they say, you go like, it's like when they say a version of like, what's your resume or what have you done recently or what happened, what you did, and then it doesn't line up. There's like one or two components that line up.
Exaggeration.
Yeah, a little exaggeration, a couple filler slots that.
Yeah, some fluff. Just a little fluff.
Little fluff, yeah. But when they do it twice and it's misguided.
Gotcha.
Right.
So are you a big hip hop fan?
I am a big fan. I'm not. Yes, I'm a big hip hop fan. I don't think I'm an expert.
Who do you love?
What?
Who do you love?
Wu-Tang.
Well, I started off meeting Old Dirty Bastard 25 years ago.
Where'd you meet him?
Well, what happened is I was taking a taxi cab because I always stay downtown. I was taking a cab to Midtown, and in the cab, because they didn't have Uber cars, I'm in the cab. The guy's got the radio on real loud. It's a shock jock guy, and he's talking.
Who's shock jock guy?
Well, he's a radio host, but it's like a Howard Stern kind of.
Howard Stern type.
Yeah.
Okay.
It might have even been Howard Stern.
Probably was Howard in New York. Opie and Anthony, maybe.
Yeah. So he's interviewing someone named Old Dirty Bastard. But that's 25 years ago when nobody wants to be called Old Dirty Bastard except this one guy on in the radio. And he's going, oh, no, I'm Old Dirty Bastard. And so it was like a little discussion about that. And he got kind of heated up. And then there was like a conversation on how many kids do you have? And he goes, oh, I don't know how many kids. Could be, it's hard to know.
Hard to know.
No, honestly, it was kind of like not finite. It wasn't.
Right.
And the same thing with wives and women and baby mom and stuff like that. So this was kind of like my first early kind of taste of that kind of thing. So I thought,
that urban thing?
The urban Lear. So then I thought, I'm gonna killing me. So anyway, so I thought I'm gonna go I'm gonna find this Old Dirty Bastard.
I'm gonna find Old Dirty Bastard.
I'm gonna find Old Dirty Bastard, and because I am resourceful, I mean, I found Jonas Salk. He took 3 years to meet me.
Yeah, but that's a big difference. Been calling around saying, "Can you find me Old Dirty Bastard?"
Well, yeah. No, but I had methods. I knew music people and stuff. I mean, honestly, Jimmy Iovine and I have been friends for almost 35 years.
Never heard of him.
He's a music guy.
Yeah,
he's lying. You heard of him.
Yeah, I know.
So Old Dirty Bastard, how'd you find him?
So I ended up finding him. Bottom line is, he says I can come to his studio, meet you in my studio.
Oh boy.
But there wasn't really a studio. Basically, it was like he was on a sidewalk. Maybe it was a studio. I'd be that guy that could be a liar if I said I'm sure it was a studio, because he wouldn't let me in to the thing that he was supposed to be in front of.
Yeah.
Right.
But there was a whole whiskey down all the way, bottle. He's all over the place. And I'm thinking, wow, this guy is fascinating. This guy's a trip. He's so fluid, and I thought.
Now, he's animated.
Yeah, he's very, very animated. Yeah. He was hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, I thought this is like my first introduction to early hip hop. To make the story honest and complete, I was also friends with the editor, the actual editor of the New York Times.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him about this meeting that I had with this guy, Old Dirty Bastard.
Dirty Bastard, huh?
So I said something about it, and he said, well, I feel like that's an inferior subculture that will go away.
Whoa.
Fuck him. Who was that?
I'm not going to say his name because he's a nice guy. He was just wrong.
Yeah.
And so then that set me on I thought, I'm going to prove this wrong. So I met Chuck D, and then I went off and I met Slick Rick, and I thought, wow, there's a lot of range in all of this too. And others, early young LL Cool J and stuff like that. So anyway, I thought, wait, I can prove this out like a cinematic equation. Prove this guy wrong, that hip hop is actually not just a subculture, and in fact, in a fair subculture, it's the actual culture itself.
Right.
And this guy doesn't get it, and I'm just a young guy learning it. So that's how that all began.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I started to sort of build this equation, which later became 8 Mile. But I have to, give tremendous thanks, and that Eminem was not only just the subject of it, he was the solution to it.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
And then that
Let's
became
not give all the credit to the white guy. I don't like
okay,
that.
how about, is JayZ, we like JayZ?
Absolutely.
Okay, I did Made in
Absolutely.
America with JayZ, but if I hadn't met ODB and all that, I wouldn't have thought to do the Made in America thing with JayZ, and I wouldn't have thought to do an album on American Gangster,
right.
after the whole thing was locked and done. This is a great story about JayZ, very quickly. Okay.
You don't have to be quick. Go.
Okay, so JayZ says, can I do, we caught up with it late that I was doing American Gangster. And so he said, let me do the soundtrack. I go, actually, we've already done the entire soundtrack. It's been scored and done, locked. He said, that's not possible. It's not possible. And I said, well, it is, and so we can't do it. He goes, I will do an additional album for American Gangster because I feel an understanding or kinship with Frank Lucas. And I said, okay, but we have no time. So you're on your own, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to give it to this guy. He works, when he wants to, he works really, really hard. He wrote all the lyrics, did everything, and completed an album with, I think, 12 tracks in 3 weeks.
Really?
Honestly.
I hated that album when it first came out, but not because of the music.
Okay.
I hated it because Jay had retired. And
wow.
And then he came out with Kingdom Come, which I thought was a great album because he was like telling us where he was at in his life then. And I felt like he was using American Gangster to still rap about, to go back to rapping about the drug game. Yeah.
God, you are so smart. You have to be around you. No, but I mean, that's
You're lying.
Of course,
See,
wouldn't have known.
like
that was
lies.
kind
You
of a lie.
shouldn't lie.
Oh,
That was kind of a lie.
oh, I don't know.
I'm
No,
just
you said he
playing.
was
Go ahead.
smart. We said you lied, but go ahead.
Oh, that was kind of, no, I wasn't a lie. Okay, anyway, but anyway, so those things happened. And then, of course, the Empire was basically built like this. I had a guy, a writer was writing a Dan Brown Da Vinci Code movie for me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Great movie.
Thank you.
Da Vinci Code, great movie.
So his name is Danny Strong, a white guy. And Danny Strong is working on this movie, a high-stakes movie because these movies get expensive. And it wasn't coming together, and so we both agreed, let's, call it a wrap on this. And I said, what are you going to do next, Danny? What are you going to do tomorrow? And he goes, I don't know. I'm going to try to do this thing. I want to try to do King Lear in the world of hip-hop. I go, you are not leaving this office without us being partners and doing this together. He goes, well, I got to talk to my agent. I go, your agent's going to tell you this, that I know the most about hip-hop, of the people that make stuff, and you have to do this with me. And that I, had this whole archive of information, of course, from doing 8 Mile, et cetera, et cetera. You have to do this with me because I do have to talk to my agent. I go, but you're predisposed to doing it with me. We have to do it together. Bottom line is I call his agent before he could even get in the car. I go, his name is Joe Cohn, good honorable agent, CAA. And I said, you have to do this to me because you know that I have all these different hip hop things and you know that this is my territory and one way or another, I have to have it. So he goes, okay, I'll give it to you. And then Danny Strong said, cool. And then 2 months later, he said, you got to meet this guy, Lee Daniels. So I go,
Never heard of him.
So I go, what is he going to do? Because I wasn't sure. I had never met Lee Daniels and didn't know. And he said, oh, he's got a really interesting voice, and believe me, you'll find him interesting. Lee Daniels comes to my office. He's driving a convertible in pajamas. He always wears pajamas. And the guy comes in with pajamas in the afternoon. And but
Lee, what the hell?
that's how he did it. He did that for years. So he comes, he did pajamas.
Hey, you got to come in ready. Yeah. You never know. You got to get that job, baby.
Oh my God. Anyway, so that became how Empire began. The three of us doing Empire.
I bet you and Lee
That's
have great
funny.
conversations.
Lee and I.
Yes.
Oh yeah, great conversations. Yes.
And you're doing Gucci Mane's movie.
I'm doing Gucci Mane's movie. Yes. Because Malcolm said something about he met Gucci. I go, I have to meet Gucci. And then I have this 15-year-old kid. He's now 15, but at 14, he said, of all the guys, the mumble rap guys, my kid, right or wrong, he just goes, Gucci's the real thing. So then I read Gucci's book. I liked his book a lot. I thought it had lots of empathy. It was a real earned success. It has redemption. It's an American dream story to me. So it doesn't have to be, it's not, it has a bigger meaning. And he's kind of, I mean, you guys, he's very important in the trap movement, and I sort of see him as as almost the progenitor of that movement, and I like all that.
He's
stuff.
very big in hip hop alone.
Yeah, if you look at this whole,
some of the new artists that came out all came under his umbrella.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Migos, Waka
Yes.
Flocka, Nicki Minaj,
Absolutely.
French Montana.
Migos. Yeah, you said Migos. Yeah.
Well, so that really counts, and I think he's a great guy. He's also, like you, a very fast reader. And anyway, I'm thrilled to do this with him.
Why didn't you do something with Old Dirty if you were so intrigued by him? Like,
I didn't have enough contact with him. I met the RZA shortly after, and RZA seemed like he was the cohesive person to the group and kind of the storyteller, and in a way, sort of like the band strategist, So
Right. And he's the one that's more into the Hollywood.
Yeah, and I was really interested in the RZA once I got to know him. But when I got to know him, then we put him in American Gangster as an actor, and that's when he said something about the Tao of Wu, and then I love the Tao of Wu because it's a distinguishing trait. No other band that I know of, particularly a hip-hop band, has this sort of Eastern thought as a foundational philosophy, and I just loved that. It was redirecting negative energy.
Right.
I thought that was positive.
you kind of changed the trajectory of Eddie Murphy too, because Nutty Professor was like a turn from all of the raunchy,
Yeah.
wild shit he was doing.
Well, yeah, that was really, Eddie wasn't used to audition. Well, what happened is I met Eddie Murphy through a friend of mine, Michael Keaton. I got to go see Raw. And then Michael Keaton says to me,
Top two best Batmans.
Wow,
Michael Keaton.
he's going to love hearing that.
Yeah.
He will, because he's an authentic guy, for sure. So he says, Eddie Murphy said, hey, I can come to the green room. So I got to go to the green room to see Eddie Murphy, and I looked at him, and I did have a human connection. And then he was going through a very low period. He was going through a low period in his career and felt kind of boxed in at Paramount, which he was, and he liked and trusted me. And so then we did Boomerang together, which was
Classic!
Yes. We love Boomerang.
Classic.
Even the soundtrack, everything.
Everything
Yeah,
was dope about
soundtrack was
Boomerang.
really good. It was good. So we did Boomerang together, and that was a hit, but not like the Nutty Professor kind of thing. And then when Eddie and I pitched the Nutty, where I had to pitch I pitched the Nutty Professor, chairman of the studio. They said, well, Eddie's, kind of not hot enough. They said, if he's going to play 5 characters, is there any other way? That's going to be very expensive, they said to me. I said, it is, but he is so gifted, he can do this. They said, well, he has to do a screen test, which, of course, Eddie Murphy has never done a
So
screen
he made him
test.
audition.
They made him audition, but they made him audition in these multiple characters. So Rick Baker, Oscar-winning makeup artist, actually adhered all the prosthetics, and Eddie went through 2 weeks of doing all that for a screen test, and that was good enough, and they signed off and said, okay.
How did you talk him into auditioning?
I didn't have to really talk him into it because he's a very smart guy, and he's also got very strong intuitive skills. And I knew I just had to present the truth to him.
Gotcha.
Right.
Like, this is what they're making us do.
If you want it, and
if you want it. And
something
he
that-
really
yeah.
wanted it. He really wanted it. He'd never done it. And I think Eddie loves new challenges.
Gotcha.
And he's brilliant. I don't know if you guys know this, but he is a brilliant classical pianist.
Really?
Oh my God, he could go to a piano. He plays beautiful, elegant classical pianist. I mean, he's not Rachmaninoff, but he's amazing. I learned it when I slept at one of his houses in not Bubble Hill, but in Sacramento, and we were bored, and he went to the piano.
He just started playing the piano.
Started playing the piano.
I was like, holy
Never
shit.
forget that Eddie
Holy
Murphy's
shit.
also a singer, right?
Yep.
He is a singer.
Party all the time.
Party all the time.
Boogie in your butt.
Boogie in the butt.
Boogie in the butt. Classic.
Boogie in the butt.
Yeah.
Never heard Boogie in the Butt?
I never heard Boogie in the Butt.
You never heard Boogie in the
Well,
Butt?
how's it go?
It goes, put a
man.
limousine in your butt. Put a magazine in your butt. You never heard that?
Wow, I love it. I love that you guys. No, I never heard it. I'd be lying. You'd be going like, that guy's a bullshit.
Yeah.
I never heard that
Wow.
song. I've heard the title, Boogie in the Butt, but I never heard it. I'm gonna,
Classic. Gets the party started, Brian.
right.
All right.
Boogie in the butt.
Really gets the party started. You know what I love about that story? The fact that you said Eddie was down.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because a lot of executives in Hollywood turn their backs on people when they're not doing
Yeah,
well.
they do that. Yeah.
But
What
don't you think everybody has a down period?
Yes.
At some point.
That's the crazy thing of Hollywood. That is the thing. There's many central things that I've learned and been able to transport to my life is you have to have humility because first of all, it's the right thing to do, but you need to be forgiven because success is not a straight up trajectory.
Right.
And we've seen guys like get really loud, like I'm the king, and kind of rude, and then they have one flop. They're in the penalty box forever.
Right.
Now sometimes they get out 5, 6, 7 years later, but it'd just be easier. I feel like my success that is ongoing is really attributable to the fact that people forgive me. They give me a break on the things that don't work because I absolutely make stuff that doesn't work. I don't want to. I try with the right intentionality and disciplines, but stuff just doesn't work sometimes.
Yeah.
So you have to have people rooting for you,
Right.
and so I don't. Oh, about talent and stuff. So you want to if unless someone's a complete jerk, which is very rare, I find. Sometimes they just get really heady and lost and stuff like that. But then you want to stay dialed into who's talented and do stuff with them.
Do people still have those perceptions of like black content? Because you said hip hop was an inferior subculture, and like I guess you said Eminem was the person that cleaned it up. That's why I pushed back on that. 'cause
Oh, I see. Yes.
Yeah, I pushed back on that because no, it's plenty of black excellence out here.
Yes,
So
there
do
is.
people still have that mentality when it comes to black content that it's inferior? Or
Very, not much. No, not much. Very, very little. Because they do see the elasticity of it.
it's a proven track record now.
It's a proven
There's
track record.
Numbers that can back up how.
Every tiny, if you really wanted the facts, or every once in a while when you're making a big movie, unless it's like Michael B. Jordan or something, they go, well, how will it do internationally? Like they do that thing. And it's just like if you tell a great story with good people, with talented people in it, and the story's compelling, it works. If you want to flip it this way, Crazy Rich Asians, like that seemed like, forget it, right?
Hilarious.
That blows up, right?
No, hilarious.
So you
Salute to
have to
Aquafina.
take, you got to take, I love her.
that's my homie.
And Constance Wu.
Yeah, and Constance, but Aquafina is definitely, she's great. So
What's
it's
wrong
very
with
seldom.
What's wrong with subcultures though? Meaning like back in the when you mentioned
I think it's good to do subcultures. That's what I look for. I look for undiscovered subcultures.
Yes.
Right.
Because
Even with Crazy Rich Asians, that was the first
Yes.
all Asian cast since the Joy Luck Club. That was a major Hollywood
Did you
release.
see Charlamagne?
Yes, I saw Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah.
No, hilarious.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, go. What you say? What's wrong?
No, but I'm saying, I think it's great to prospect subcultures that haven't been discovered before. Like that's in sort of in a secondary way. I think that's really valuable to the Gucci story because, the mumble rap scene, that movement in Atlanta, all that hasn't really been exposed. Just the granular nature of how that works and what it was like for this guy to grow up in the street doing drugs and trap and this thing, and then it became music. So I made that sound too fast and easy, which you could correct me on. But you're right. I actually look for those. That's why I did this movie called Friday Night Lights.
Great
I
movie,
love that
classic.
movie.
I could,
Football movie.
another Friday Night Lights was good. I'm gonna tell you another one, Backdraft.
Thank you.
Cause I didn't know shit about no firefighters.
Yeah.
You
Nobody
know what
knew
I'm
about
saying?
I know. Firefighters was just another thing of like, because I was way pre 9/11, but I'm really I like celebrating selfless human beings that do heroic stuff, and I thought firefighters do that. They're selfless. They do heroic things, and they don't have power, so they don't even get to like have guns and do it that way. So because power sometimes gives you the excuse to do things and stuff, but I just thought they were like beautiful people that
They don't get paid much for the love.
They get paid very little. It's often generational from family to family, and they're just saving lives. They are just good people.
Absolutely.
And I'm gonna tell you why I love Friday Night Lights. I am from a small town called Moncks Corner, South Carolina. The population was 7,000 people. So high school football on a Friday night was every fucking thing.
Yeah. Did you play?
No.
Does he look athletic to you?
I was too busy being a class clown and selling
You better
crack.
say that again. No, I was too busy selling crack.
I was.
Wow, that's very funny.
I actually used to get suspended, and when I would be suspended, you couldn't go to football games, and that shit was like torture. So if I was suspended that day during school, I couldn't go to football games.
Because that's where the people were. That's the fun. Everybody go. You're right. In small town, that's all they do is do that.
Like I would risk going to the football games, even though I know I would get arrested. Like they arrest you if you're suspended from school and you go to a football game. Yeah. You get arrested.
You'd
I would
still
risk it. Yes,
find your way in. Yeah.
I'll stand outside the fence.
Yeah.
You know.
Got it. Yes. Yeah. Because that's where all the beautiful girls are.
Yeah,
that's where
man.
everything fun is.
You couldn't see over the fence, right? Never mind.
Shut up.
Well, Brian, we appreciate you for joining us.
Yes,
man.
face to
Thank
face,
you
the
for
art
coming.
of human connection.
Thank you so much.
Word,
Face to
man.
face, Brian.
When is this
Grazer.
out?
Out now today,
Okay.
this week.
Any movies you working on? Anything that we need to look up?
I'm doing Lin-Manuel Miranda's directorial debut.
Wow.
That begins the January this year.
Nice.
It's called Tick Tick Boom, kind of a multi-character. Singular character starring Andrew Garfield, but it takes us into the world of Rent, which Tick Tick Boom was written by Jonathan Larson. It's a really, I think it should be a really great movie. And then I just finished Hillbilly Elegy that Ron Howard directed, which is about this kid that grew up, unfortunately, in the Appalachian, very educationally and socioeconomically deprived area that, again, deals with personal trauma and getting over it. I do another Friday Night Lights movie, Friday Night Lights in Del Rio, Texas.
Is it a reboot?
No, it's just a reboot. It's called, I guess it'd be a reboot, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I just love Friday Night Lights.
Yeah.
Doing a movie with a TV series with Kevin Durant called Swagger. It's about AAU basketball. It's like Friday Night Lights, built out of like AAU basketball.
Which is crazy. AAU basketball is ridiculous.
I didn't realize what it was until
it's crazy.
Told
Parents go
A lot
crazy.
of urban
fighting.
glares.
Yeah, a lot of urban glares.
Yeah, you get a lot of urban glares from
urban
players
glares.
to parents.
Yes.
Yeah,
So anyway, I think thank you for having me.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much.
And make sure
No,
you
I mean,
watch
I don't
Wu-Tang
wanna-
and American Saga also.
That's
Oh
right.
yeah, check out Wu-Tang American Saga on
Classic.
Hulu, please.
Well, it's Brian Grazer.
Thank you very much.
It's the Breakfast
Where you
Club. Good
going?
morning.
Wait.